Hey, what's up everyone on YouTube and Twitter? So it's been about a week since the last video, and in the last video we discussed a potential bounce for Bitcoin based off of this daily bullish divergence, and we finally got to see it play out yesterday. Bitcoin moved up to approximately 87.6K. It had been consolidating here for the past week or so before breaking above this resistance, but currently it's now back below this resistance. We're waiting on the daily candle. And the RSI is also potentially making bearish divergence. So if this ends up confirming, then Bitcoin is likely to fall back into this range over the coming days and see some sort of pullback. So we'll watch to see if this ends up closing like this on the daily candle close. By the time this video is out, we'll probably know the result of this. But that's what you have to pay attention to right now. We get this daily bearish divergence here. It would lead to a further pullback. If you look at the 4-hour RSI as well, it's also making bearish divergence here. The RSI is making a higher high on the 4-hour time frame, while the price is making a lower high. So there's bearish divergence already confirmed on the 4-hour time frame. There's bearish divergence that could end up confirming on the daily time frame as well. And the area to really look for Bitcoin here, if it were to pull back, would be back to this lower range once again around 78 to 80K. By that point, the RSI in the daily time frame probably would pull back enough, or we would see the price maybe make a lower low here while the RSI makes a higher low, and that would give us some sort of bullish divergence. So for now, we'll wait and see if this ends up closing below this support area and confirms this bearish divergence, or if it ends up closing above this area and invalidates it for the time being. And then we'll wait to see how tomorrow ends up closing. And now we look at Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. The weekly candle is currently in the green, which sets up an interesting scenario going into the weekly close. Because if this can close actually in the green, this does have the potential to form bullish divergence, as the price is currently making a higher low, while if you look at the RSI, it made a lower low. So this would actually set up bullish divergence for the first time since September. Back here in September, the price ended up making a higher low, while the RSI made a lower low. And that kind of set up this rally from approximately 55,000 all the way up to 110,000. So if Bitcoin were to get this confirmed on the weekly close over the longer time frame, over the coming weeks and months, I would actually expect Bitcoin to make a push higher up to these all-time highs once again, just because this would be the first weekly bullish divergence since the last one back here, which set off the massive run through the end of the fall. So there's a lot to be determined here as we head into the daily candle close. If it closes bearish, it would probably affect the weekly potential close. So we'll watch to see how this ends up playing out over the coming days and as we head into the weekly close on Sunday. If we go to now Bitcoin Dominance really has not done much over the past month and a half. It had this wick high. This was early February, if you guys recall. And then since then, it really just hasn't done much. It's still in this massive uptrend. So the trend is your friend. So it actually favors a continuation. Whenever you're in an uptrend, it favors a continuation. But there are signs here, right? Over the past month and a half, it keeps selling off when it gets up to these levels. It's been consolidating essentially. And there is double bearish divergence now essentially in play. The RSI has been making lower lows over the past few months. You go back here, this high from October, the price ended up making a higher high while the RSI has been making a lower high. But now we have this other mini one where over the past month, the price made a higher high. But if you look at the RSI, it's been making a lower high here. So this is almost double bearish divergence potentially. This second one isn't really confirmed yet, but if this ends up closing red on this weekly candle, we could have double bearish divergence on Bitcoin Dominance. And it's just been consolidating. Once when it decides which route it wants to take, which direction it chooses to take, whether it breaks upward and pushes back up to this high from early February, or if it ends up breaking down below this area, we're probably going to see a big move on Bitcoin Dominance. It just hasn't made a decision yet. It's just been consolidating for many weeks. Typically, when you see something in an uptrend and it's consolidating, it favors a continuation. But there are some signs here that potentially maybe it wants to go down. So we just have to wait and see which direction it decides to take. Now we go to the stock market and specifically the S&P 500. We've been watching this weekly RSI. We've been updating this over the past few videos. We want to see this weekly RSI on the S&P 500 make a lower low while the price makes a higher low. If you recall, over the past week, this actually did go below this area but end up closing above, as the RSI is based on the close and not the price action in between. So the S&P 500 still has a little bit more to go down, in my opinion. Resetting this RSI would probably be a good thing overall for the longer term picture. Typically, when it has done that over the past 2 years or so, it has led to a rally after and has marked the bottom. So seeing this reset back to these 2023 lows would probably be a good thing. The NASDAQ has already done that. The NASDAQ has already made a lower low. So we're just waiting on the S&P 500 here to make one as well. If you enjoy my content and would like to support my channel, I do have referral links to Coinbase, Gemini. With Gemini, if you spend $100, you get $75 in crypto. And I also have a Patreon where I have a Discord. If you have any sort of questions, I'm constantly posting there, posting charts, posting updates, and everything else. So if you're interested in that, it's in the description below on YouTube. And now lastly, I wanted to discuss a tweet I had posted yesterday. And it's pretty interesting. So over the past 5 years, we've seen the term market crash spike on Google Trends. So this is people searching for market crash. This means people are in fear. They think the market's going to crash, so they end up searching it. And interestingly enough, there's been 3 spikes over this 50 level over the past 5 years. And this was March of 2020, June of 2022, and August of 2024. And the interesting thing here is those were all major bottoms for crypto in general. This is the total 2 chart. So this is everything excluding Bitcoin. If you look here, this was March of 2020. This was the low. And then afterwards, it went upward. And then you look over here. This was June of 2022. This was the low for the cycle for the bear market here. We end up testing back below it a few months later, but this marked the low. And then back here in August of last year, we had this low and then crypto moved up after. So if you bought every single time the term market crash was high, you ended up doing well. You end up buying the last 3 local bottoms over the past 5 years. So we're seeing this spike once again here. This is coming up. This is above the 50 level. So that would suggest, based on the last 5 years, that this is probably an area to look for buying actually rather than selling. And it might not mark the exact bottom. Maybe we do end up going a little bit lower. Maybe we don't. But if you're accumulating during this time period over the last 5 years, you saw upside after. So this has confluence with the S&P 500, Bitcoin, total 2 weekly RSI, all breaking lower because we're seeing high fear. So it makes sense. In times of high fear, people are looking to sell. Things get extreme. But historically, this has been the best time to buy. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching on X, make sure to follow me on YouTube. It's in my X bio. I will see you guys in the next video.